have a Guinness World Record as being the oldest female ninja competitor. When I did my first American Ninja Warrior show, I fell on the first obstacle and was devastated. And I just needed to get up and get going again. I had osteopenia after 2 years of doing lifting weights. I was able to reverse it. There have been studies that show people that are 94 can gain incredible strength with even just resistance bands. That's why I want to talk to you and your audience and as many people as I can to just, get started. Just go out and walk 3 days a week. Get a buddy. It's more fun with somebody. We want to have longevity, like you said, and be independent. You want to be able to pick up your groceries and put your dishes away in the cabinet, and you want to open jars. I saw my mom who couldn't do, I mean, it's tough to get into these things these days, any of these jars. You're not too old. And it's not too late. I didn't start until I was 63 doing any kind of lifting weights. A lot of people want to do it and they are inspired to do it, but it's making that first step. And you have to make the commitment.
Ginny, it is so lovely to have you here with us at Movement Living. We're very excited for this conversation. You are an inspiration to both of us, and I know to many other women. Before we get into our conversation, I just wanted to start off by asking you a question that we love to ask everyone, and that is, what do you love about the age you are right now?
Well, thank you very much for having me, first of all. And second is I feel stronger and more confident than I ever have before. And I was a professional dancer for many years, for 10 years in New York City. And I was strong then in my, 20s and 30s. But now in my 70s, I feel even stronger and like I said, more confident.
That's amazing. I love that answer. And, you know, dancer, I know you've also been an actress and now Ninja Warrior. Tell us your story, Jenny. It's such an incredible one. Walk us through a little bit of it.
I was a really shy kid, and my parents put me in dance class, and I think that was my first form of expression. It was movement. It was modern dance, so it's a form of communication, and I loved it, and it helped bring me out of my shell. And I continued dancing, and I even went to college for dance education. But there, I learned that I didn't want to learn how to teach it. I wanted to perform. And so I created a path for me to go to New York City, much to my parents' dismay, at age 20, and give myself 3 to 5 years. I'm very goal oriented, and I know that can't happen in a year. And many people say, "Oh gosh, you're one in a million. Nobody, nobody makes it there." But that didn't deter me. I went, well, if I don't try now, how will I ever know? So I did go to New York, and I did several different jobs. Mostly I just danced on scholarship and danced and ate and slept dance. So it was an interesting time for me, especially coming from Tennessee to New York City. But I adapted and I loved my dance world, and I blossomed from there and tried to do some acting in summer stock. And then I got my equity card there. And also I was able to get in the show Pippin in 1974. And that was a great feat for me because it's Bob Fosse. And Bob Fosse as a choreographer is one of the top of the top. And it was just I still have my two very best friends from doing the show 50 years ago. So it was not only a lifesaver in terms of friendship, but it was also um, such a learning experience. And it's so magical, the minute the curtain opens and you got magic to do, and you just feel it, and you feel the audience, and are they with you? Are they not? And it was just a wonderful time of life. And I felt, oh my gosh, I'm on a Broadway stage. Now, I was a dancer, but I got to understudy one of the leads and got to go on for 2 weeks. So that was probably a pinnacle of my dance life. And from there, somebody said, you're going to be good for commercials. So I went, commercials? How do you do that? Let me see. And I got the pics and resumes and went to an agent and they sent me out and I started to do TV commercials. And I did over 100 national, regional commercials, and they're still on YouTube someplace.
I may have seen a couple of them. They're so fun.
They are fun because that was before the DVR, and people really watched the commercials, and they were 60-second commercials, and they were clever and they were funny, and we didn't have all the special effects that they have today. So I have a lot of stories from those days, but it was also a time that I met my first husband. I'm divorced from him now, but I we got married and had two children in the city, and I continued work until, of course, the divorce changed my whole life and turned me upside down, and I suddenly had to find a real job and moved out of the city. And that's where the difficulties really started, was trying to raise two kids by myself and three dogs and be in the Poconos where we dealt with all the blizzards and the difficulties of just winter life there and also making a living there. So I ended up actually in radio, and that gave me the ability to spend more, be around my kids and use the phone more. But also when they were in school, I would, go around and do my sales sales job. It wasn't perfect, but it was a wonderful life there. We were on a lake, and with the bear and the deer and the antelope, no antelope, but the kids had a great life there. As difficult as it was, I would put their bikes on the back of the car and drive the mile closest to a good road, a paved road, and then they would be able to get those bikes and ride home. So I had a little more time at work. So there were things like that. There were blizzards that we went through. We had to do it again. People said you can't live up there. That's going to be so difficult. But when you have to do it, you do it. And so I asked Jessie, my daughter, when she was older, what she learned, what she thought about that time period. And she said she learned to be self-sufficient. And so I thought, oh, wow, that sounds great to me. What about my son? What did he think? And he went, to never give up. And so I really think they had a great time of life because we didn't have social media, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have cable, we didn't have all those, we didn't have a computer. So it was living outdoors, kind of the way I grew up. You take off and you're running through. Of course, they couldn't take off too far with the bear around. So,
Yeah,
so
but a great way to grow up.
it was a great way, yeah. And time went on, and I met a man who I then married, and we moved to Maryland, and that's where the kids kind of got through high school and into college, and that was a time when I worked out a little 20-minute routine to keep exercising and keep maintaining, not getting stronger, not dancing anymore, but continuing the radio. But I still had to do that. When you're raised in a sport, I'll call this a sport,
Yeah.
dance. You don't get it out of your system. You want to move,
Yeah.
you want to, do that with your kids. So I did teach dance for a while, and Jessie took all my classes, and Darren sat there kind of angry at me, but it's what we had to do to survive. Anyway, we moved to Maryland, and I continued radio, and then when we retired, ended up going to Wilmington, close to Wilmington, North Carolina, where they have acting. And that was my first thing, is I'm going to be an actress again. I never wanted to give it up. I'm going to do it again, even if I'm a granny. And so that was the first thing I did. I had pictures and resumes, and I was ready to go. I got an agent. I started auditioning and learning the ropes of submitting your own auditions via, your own tapes or film, I should say. And so that was a learning process. And at the same time, I started to do swimming, which having been on the lake, I loved swimming so much, but I'd never learned proper form. And, I never had a coach. So I started that, and I did all the things that I couldn't do when the kids were growing up. Like kayaking and bicycling and everything involved movement though. So that's when I saw Jessie doing American Ninja Warrior. And here comes your question. As I rambled
And
on, is how did I get into ninja?
and
And
before you answer, what is ninja? Just in case someone doesn't know American Ninja Warrior, what exactly is it?
well, it actually started as Sasuke in Japan. So it's been going on, I don't know, 20 something years there. But they brought it to the US, and it is a series of obstacles that keep getting harder and harder. And it's based on upper body. So you might be swinging through the air. You might be holding on a cliffhanger by your fingertips. You might be doing a lache, which is when you throw from one bar and catch 7 feet away in another bar. They come up with some interesting things to trick us each time. But there's usually balance involved, but there's a lot of strength involved. The interesting thing, though, is it's both men and women, and it's age 15 on up. So I'm not competing with 70-year-olds or 60-year-olds, and very few 50-year-olds, but mostly the younger generations that is coming in, and they're doing it better and faster than any of us. So I don't know that explains American Ninja Warrior. It's now
Yeah.
playing on Monday nights on NBC, but it's exciting because they have obstacles that almost everybody is failing and failing and failing and failing. They're very hard, and then somebody gets through it, and then they fail further on, and then each time it gets further and further until you have like some winners, and it's just exciting to see how people have different ways of getting through the obstacles as well. Jessie has been in maybe 12, 13 seasons, and she's been one of the top original ninjas who flies through the course, and she has such grace and health and just beauty in her movement. I take credit for that for some of the dance. But
So the girl that grew up on the lake in the woods, running from bears and just riding bikes and things, really turned into a great athlete.
she did. She went to gymnastics, and then because she was strong upper body, and I was always impressed with the gymnasts and how strong they were. It's like I don't, I had never worked on upper body. So then when she was in high school, they went, hey, wait a minute, you should be able to do pole vaulting, and she got a full ride scholarship with the pole vaulting. So that was exciting to see her be able to take advantage. I will tell you, when I was growing up, we didn't have the sports. We didn't have Title IX. We had maybe 3 different sports in my high school, and I didn't do those. So it was a different story, and it was great to see her be able to thrive and work in that environment and do so well. But that's how she gained all the strength to go into ninja. She is also a stunt actress in LA. So she has taken the acting that she saw me doing, and she got into herself, and then all the athletics, and you put the acting and athletics together and you get a stunt actress. And so she took to the Ninja Warrior and did quite well. And I just looked at her and I thought, I would love to get stronger. I really just wanted to get stronger. I guess I always wanted to. I just didn't have the means, or, the availability or the time to do it. So many people in those middle years are traipsing around the kids with their different sports, and they're working all day, and they're tired, and you don't get a chance to do that. But what I found is doing it all with Jessie, we're we're creating a new bond together. We're doing something that we both love to do, and now she's teaching me.
I just want to quickly pause because you said something that I think so many people can relate to, which is I always wanted to get stronger. And
Yes.
I think that's a really common thought that women have, especially in our community, where it's like, oh, either I feel like I should be stronger or I would like to be stronger, but it feels like, how could you start? Or I'm too old to start, or it's too late to start. I know, can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think that's really important.
Well, I didn't just start doing ninja by any means, nor did I have any plans to do ninja. That was not any of my idea. It was just to get stronger. And I talked with Jessie about what I could do, and what really hit me was pull-ups, which are one of the hardest things to do. So I got one of those bars and I put it in the door frame, and it had handles that came down from it, and I kept working and working to try to get it. And I sent her a video of me doing pull-ups, and she goes, "Mom, I'm so great you're working on this, but that's not a pull-up. You have to go all the way over the bar and all the way straight down." So I went, okay, I'm going to a personal trainer so I can get stronger. So that is really what got me going. As I went to a personal trainer, because I'd never lifted weights in my life, and I didn't know how to, and I didn't want to hurt myself. And I see people that have, you have to have the proper form. And it's so easy to slip down into, the rolled shoulders or whatever, your form can get off, and then you get injuries. So I went to a fellow in the area that has a great plan. And you don't just work on pull-ups, you work on the whole body. So we had to develop the chest, the back, the shoulders, the biceps, the legs, and we would work different parts. Every other day would be something different. And it was very frustrating trying to learn a pull-up. Every once in a while I would learn, and I try to get better grip by just holding the bar and just trying to pull up. We call it scapular pull down. So just pulling down and just trying to get there and hold it. And sometimes going from the top of the bar and just coming down a little bit. So it took 7 months before I started to see some kind of definition and toning that people would recognize. And then it took an entire year to get one pull up. One pull up. My goal was 5. So I kept going. I kept trying to go further and further. So that's really how I started. And in the interim, there was somebody in my neighborhood who had built some of the obstacles in his outdoor yard, and because he had been on the show before. So I went over there so curious about some of the obstacles, and particularly the very first obstacle, which is, it was 5 steps on an incline over water, and they're very far apart, and you jump from one to another, from side to side, and then jump to a rope and a platform. And the athletes just made it look so easy. But I'm telling you, it is not easy. I did it in baby steps, and that's what I tell most adults that are trying to get into anything in movement is take baby steps. You can't do it just, you can't just, sometimes somebody will say, well, just do it. No, these are incline steps. You could break your ankle. So you want to, just go to one and then off, and one and then off. And little by little, you push the steps out until you can, go up the whole way. You really take those little steps so you don't hurt yourself.
And that's a huge message because um, I find myself going, yeah, I want to do that, and I want to run. I used to love to sprint. And you can't just go out and sprint. It either hurts or it's not, you're just not feeling like you're flowing. But I've I found a way to just learn in smaller steps, and you're right. But it's a hard lesson to sink in for us because, well, we were something before and we're not now. And so I think what you're saying is, find a way to break it down into small steps and then grow from there as your strength grows. But you are a good example of that it works.
It's I kind of call it progressions. Like I think I did a post one time on Instagram where I just jumped to the pole to touch it. Just to see if I could get, and then I wanted to jump a little higher to see if my hands could go around the pole. And it took me quite a few jumps before I would be willing to hold it, because you don't want to jar your shoulders either.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I really take a long time, and that doesn't help me with American Ninja Warrior, because you're on an obstacle for the first time. You don't get to practice on it. And so there's no progression that you get to do. It's like 1, 2, 3, and you're on. That's basically how I got into the show. On the season 8, they asked Jessie and I to do a mother-daughter segment of us working out together. And it's so much fun for mother and daughter to be doing it together and learning together, and watching one person how they do it, and then seeing another person how they do it, and that you spend that time together. And I've seen a lot more parents now that are uh, doing different sports with their kids. And instead of sitting down and watching your kids doing it, getting up and finding out what it's like to learn to balance, and to, little things, one step at a time. I mean, maybe you used to do the monkey bars. That's going to be a hard thing to do right away if you haven't done that in a while. So, you might want to just see if you can hang and hold your weight close to the ground.
It's so true. And there's so many opportunities to incorporate little movements like that into our lives. Like you were just mentioning the monkey bars. And, I'm just thinking, Gab, when you take your grandkids like to the playground, it's like, why not just
I can hang too.
on, for a minute or two. I think we feel weird doing that, but why?
Well, I mean, a good example is you have a trampoline in your backyard. Your kids are already just jumping on it like crazy, and I haven't been on a trampoline since I don't know when. I'm 72.
Right.
I got on, and I do work out with a trainer, and I do some sports. But I was like, what happens if I just jump a little too high? And what if I don't know. I was a little just scared more than anything else. And I knew that if I continue doing it and practicing it, I will get more comfortable and it'll be more fun. And it's such a joy to be able to do something again that you haven't done.
Same. I get very worried on a trampoline because I'm afraid, like, I see a lot of people that just do a drop onto their rear end. And I was scared to do that I'd hurt my back, that the jar would be there. And it took me, I huddled down low and did it small first.
That's good advice. And one of the things I want to say too is everything you're talking about and what I've learned from learning things the proper way is there is a technique for a push up
Yes.
or a pull up or anything you're doing, a squat. It's a technique and there's actual things to learn. It took me a long time to figure that out. I thought, oh, I'll just mimic what I see, but that's not it. And so once you accept that, I think that you'll find that you actually can improve. You've got to find a way to learn it.
Yes, yes. The technique is really important in all of it. Yeah, you don't want to back yourself into it. You want to learn, you know, and it becomes faster and easier.
Hanging, for example, and this is a big one for longevity. It's not hanging and then pull up. It's core strength too, right? I mean, there's stuff to do with your core that you wouldn't think about. You think it's all arms, but that's not quite right, is it?
It's your grip. That's the hardest part right there. I mean, sometimes I can hang for I think the longest 4 minutes, but then my hands are like
Good.
they're like stuck there. But the more you have to work with your hands, the better grip you have. And we want to have longevity, like you said, and be independent. You want to be able to pick up your groceries and put your dishes away in the cabinet, and you want to open jars. I saw my mom who couldn't do, I mean, it's tough to get into these things these days, any of these jars. So, but to be independent and to be able to do that, you need that strength in your arms and your fingers, and you need the muscles, and you need the bone. You need the strength in the bones, and this is what I start sounding like I'm preaching, because once I learned how much lifting weights would help with your bone density, that's when I had that moment where I wanted to, scream to the world. I had osteopenia. After 2 years of doing lifting weights, I was able to reverse it. And that's coming out a lot more. You'll see a lot of people talking about it, but we we have been programmed, it's stereotypically, growing up, that they don't want to become bulky or too strong. But you need those muscles to stay independent. And so it's hard for people to get over that feeling. Oh no, I don't want to get too strong. So, and a lot of people didn't know what the term osteopenia was. And I find today, even when I go to ninja competitions, I talk to the younger people and they say, no, I haven't heard that term. And I'm like, you have to know that because that is you know, before you get osteoporosis. Why don't we know that when you're in your 20s so that you know and can possibly erase it? I mean, not everybody, there's, lots of problems that people have that can't just be fixed like that. But if you knew that exercise could keep you stronger or impact, running, walking, jumping, all those things are going to help your bone density. And after menopause, you are, they say that you lose about 20% of your bone density. Women should know that ahead of time. And so that made me really want to get out to the world. We can reverse this. And because when I was told I had osteopenia, I'm like, what is that? What do I do with that? How do I get rid of it? It doesn't sound good. And and all she said was to take calcium. And I said, well, can't I reverse this? And they didn't have any answers for that at that point. Now you're reading and seeing a lot more about it. So I'm happy and grateful to see that. But we need to get our seniors doing that because there have been studies that show people that are 94 can gain incredible strength with even just resistance bands. And they took a bunch of people that were in a nursing home, and they worked with them for 8 weeks, and they did things with their legs mostly, and they were able to gain like 100 and more than 150%. I think it was 194% stronger from that 8 weeks of doing strength training. So you're not too old and it's not too late. I didn't start until I was 63 doing any kind of lifting weights. But I do say it's important to learn the proper form.
Can you just go back a little bit on the osteopenia? Was it in hip and spine everywhere? How did you know that you had actually gotten rid of it, or made your bones strong enough so that you weren't in that category again? And how long did that take?
Well, they did it differently when I was in my 40s. They did the neck and the spine. So I can't really compare a lot of the stuff. Now they do the spine and the lumbar. But yes, I think the doctor just felt like this is part of the aging process. By those 2 years of really doing something with taking the calcium, um, made the huge difference. Now, I mean, they're right. The aging process does continue. It
Yeah.
does, but we have to keep fighting it. So, I mean, I try to do stronger weights. I try to do more, the cardio to get the impact. I have to keep working on it. It has slipped, one of them slipped back. I can't remember which one. And then I had to work harder and, do heavier weights and then got it back to normal.
So you
Yeah.
were able to keep on top of the scanning, check into it, address it, and stay on top of it. And that's a
Yeah.
really hopeful message, very positive message.
Well, you have to do it every 2 years, I believe, is what they do, the mammogram and the bone density. And so that's where it was discovered. And I don't think they start, when I looked it up, men don't even have to have it at all. My husband, and he's in his 80s, he was just diagnosed, and he's going to get a bone density test today. He was just diagnosed with osteopenia, and I'm like, whoa. There's so much that we want to stay on top of, but the exercise part, if I could change one person's opinion to get started, That's what I want. That's why I want to talk to you and your audience and as many people as I can to just, get started. Just go out and walk 3 days a week. Get a buddy. It's more fun with somebody, and it's somebody to be accountable for. And walk 3 times a week, 20 minutes each time, and then try to extend that to 5 days a week, 30 minutes a time. And it makes a huge difference towards heart disease and anything else. And there's other ways of, going a little bit faster and then going, 90 minutes, a slow walk, and then 60, not minutes, seconds, and then 60 seconds, 90 and 60 seconds, changing. So you're fast and then you slow down a little bit and you're fast. These are all things that are getting pumping your blood, keeping you healthy.
Well, I love that, that you're on a mission, and I think we all are, because we can see that if we don't stay strong, we're not going to have the quality of life that we would
That's
like
it.
to have as in our 70s, 80s, whatever.
Well, one of the things that I think that people are so afraid of is falling. Falling is a big deal. You
Yeah.
fall, you have soft bones, you break a hip. That's not a good story. You don't want to hear that. But what do you do? I mean, how do you fall? Can you get down to the floor and back up again?
Yeah.
Um, there are a lot of people, and they've asked me to do things for people that are more sedentary, but you can do things in a chair. You can lift your knees, you can do arm work, you can, just get up and down, because these things are keeping you mobile. But toe strength is very strong too, because that'll help you. Um, Ankle strength. One of my favorite things to do is balance. We have a lot of, we train all together at that friend's house, a couple of miles away, and there are about 6 of us to get together all the time, and we just the guy who puts it out always makes these fun little balance challenges, and we enjoy it. We enjoy being together as women, and we enjoy, seeing what we can do and how we can improve in our balance. And it may be just if you get next to a counter or a desk and you try to balance on one foot. Um, I think they say if you're in your 50s, you should be able to balance on one foot for 40 seconds. And if you're in your 60s, you should be able to balance for 20 seconds on one foot. And in your 70s, you should be able to balance for 10 seconds. And that's just a moderate kind of thing. But just make sure that you're close to something that you're not going to fall down, and work on it, because you can get better at it. I brush my teeth, the 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds on the bottom and on the top, and I switch my legs, and I do balance like that. But you know, um, tons of things. I do a lot more with my toes now because I got a bunion. Another thing that people get a lot later in in life, when you worn too tight of shoes. I was on Broadway in high heels on a rake stage doing Fosse movement for years. So, we've all been in those high heels, and they do some damage. And so I've been working a lot more on, being able to, like, even take a Kleenex and try to grab it with my toes. I mean, these are little things that you can do, when you're in front of the TV. Um, and they're kind of fun, especially when you get better at them. But I have, like, the rubber bands. I used to have one right here. I put them around my fingers, the rubber bands that you find on your broccoli or asparagus, and I just go like this to work the fingers. Or, you can put it in rice, your hands in rice or sand if you're at the beach. And all these things, I feel that saying that, you want to keep your parts moving so your moving parts don't rust. And I don't know why, but in my 70s I started getting all these weird things that happened, like the bunion and the ingrown toenail, but the arthritis. The arthritis is like I can't wear rings because I have such huge knuckles. So, but I feel that if I'm working these hands like this all the time, that it's going to keep it from getting stiffer.
Movement is, what is it? Motion is lotion. And that's movement living. That's what we're all about too. It's that, and I'm finding at my age, in my 70s, that I have to keep moving all the time. And but the quality of the movement, the better that is, the better off you'll be. But the same thing, the hands, everything needs attention, the balance, the brain balance connections. There's so much to learn, and there's so much great science right now to help us be more efficient in our movement. So it's a very exciting time. And that's why we love talking to you, because you're right out there proving it.
Well, that was actually why I started Instagram. It's because when I did my first American Ninja Warrior show, I fell on the first obstacle and was devastated. And I just, I don't know what happened. I felt I'd let everybody down. And so, see, all seniors, my husband, my daughter, my family, and it was just, I don't, I just, it's just one of those things where you just couldn't get over. And every time I watched the show, the athletes made it look so easy, and I just needed to get up and get going again. And so the Instagram was a way of showing people that, okay, maybe I fell on American Ninja Warrior, but look at how far I've come and look at how far I can go. And so I'm still trying to do that. Why can't I do it?
I've been seeing 100-year-olds on Instagram. I am so inspired by this. I can't
I
tell
am
you. And that's
inspired by that as well.
inspired by you. You're inspired by others. But what the point is that no, you don't have to be all wobbly and bent over, at 80 or 90. You just don't. So get that out of your head.
That point, just it has to be said again and again, because even what you were saying earlier, Ginny, with when your doctor first told you about the osteopenia, she sort of, or she or he said, kind of normal. Like, you had to really take it on yourself and go, well, wait a minute, this doesn't need to be normal. And we still have this idea in our heads that 70s, 80s, 90s, like it's this decline, this frailty, this weakness, and yet that's just not true.
So, I mean, the statistics are like you lose 1 to 2% of your bone mass per year by the age 30. And muscles too, around 30s, you lose 30% of your lean muscle by 60 and 50% by 70. And that's just going to be what they call that natural aging process. I tell people a lot of times they have to make the commitment. A lot of people want to do it and they are inspired to do it, but it's making that first step. And you have to make the commitment. And then you have to form a habit. And then you have to build on that and be consistent. I used to do, just swimming in the lake, and I would not miss a day. If I missed a day, it gave me an excuse to miss another day. So that's kind of the way I look at it, and that's why I like goals. I have a goal. And if I didn't get it done yesterday, then I better get it done today. And so that's what I constantly am doing. It may be just, cleaning up the house. It could be, a huge amount of things, but in it, it's going to probably have a lot of movement.
I really like the simplicity of your first goal, which was to do, I think you said 5 pull-ups was your first, or maybe it started with just 1, but it's so simple, and yet it in going for that goal and trying to achieve that goal, it led you to, like you said, you had to work on other areas of strength. It became bigger, but the simplicity of the single goal, I think, is really powerful, because it's like, it gives women an idea of, okay, what is my goal? Is my goal, do I want to do a cartwheel with my granddaughter? Or do I be able to jump on the trampoline? Like, what's a simple goal? To do the monkey bars. And then you just find a way to make it happen, and it leads to so much more.
I think if you find some people too, it makes it a lot more fun. You find somebody else that wants to get started, and the two of you can talk and you can walk, and then you've started. then then you have to do it then, 2 days later again.
It's a great point. And we at Movement Living, we have sort of 3 pillars of wellness. There's movement, food, and then our third pillar is connection, because it's so important, our relationships with, ourselves, but also others. And I think it's awesome when you can tie it all together. And like you were saying, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your friendships and how you guys train together and find joy in that, because I think that's something, another image people might have is getting stronger is like going to the gym alone and it's a chore and it's a pain, but you found a way to make it so fun.
That's another one of my favorite sayings. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. And you can make it fun. I mean, like I told you, the 6 of us get together twice a week and we do a lot of balance work and we have a lot of fun and we laugh and we work on things and we get better. At swim class, I have several people there, a bunch of us that have been there for years now, and we've gotten closer, and now we're starting to do open water swim. So it's like they're people with a common interest. And I talked at a church one time, and they were going to get together with a walking group. That was what their goal was to do. I don't know if they did it or not, but it sounded really good, because that was a good place to meet like-minded people and to do something that's for your health. So, I just, there's so many ways that you can make it fun. One of the things I do with my granddaughter now, she's 10, and we go to the ninja gym together. And I just am so thinking that's so much fun to be able to have this bond with my daughter doing it, and now with my granddaughter doing it. And she can go.
That is such a joy to be able to do something with your grandchild,
My 2 closest friends were in Pippin with me back in 1970, 4, 6, something like that. And we have continued, well, our kids grew up together at the lake. And so now our kids, they're having kids. And so we have had this enormous long length of friendship where we come and visit each other, and it's so much fun. We're in different parts of the world now, well, of the United States, I should say. But it's a great place to go and meet and be together. But the other friendships are with, the groups of swimming or exercising or ninja and just friends in the neighborhood. It's really important. I mean, they say it all over the places that, as you get older, the social is so important.
Easy to become isolated.
That's a tough problem. There are a lot of fears as you get older, though, too. One of the things I see in classes that I take is this rounded shoulder, and people are getting it more and more from looking at their phones, looking at a recipe, looking down, or looking at the computer where we're sitting, and our prolonged sitting is going to weaken your legs and glutes. And the rolled shoulders, every time I talk about that, I always see somebody going like this, like real quickly. And I do a lot of exercises where I'm just moving my shoulders back, so that you're working your back as well. And you don't get that. It's something, again, every time I come to a door frame, I go like this and press against it. So I do it.
It feels good for your pecs too, and it stretches them out. It's all of that is, but living in movement, that's really what you're talking about, because it's not something you go, oh, well, okay, now I'm going to work out, or now I'm going to just do this. No, it's your whole life is like that, and I'm going to practice my balance or whatever. Yes, of course you work out specifically too, but it does seem as though it's a mindset. And this is what we've been saying, while the coffee's brewing, do some squats or stretches or whatever. And I try to get down to the floor and back a bunch of times each day. Also getting up and down on one leg, just getting up and down off the floor. If you don't keep doing that, it's going to be hard. Because I know if in a week I haven't done it for a week. It's going to be harder on my knees.
It's mobility. Mobility. A lot of people have PT because they have injuries or something, and they do this mobility for a while, working, you know, whether it's a frozen shoulder or whatever it is. But once the PT is over, they stop doing it. And I really like the mobility because I want to keep working on it and keep all those joints. You want your joints to be like covered with armor so that they don't get hurt. I heard an interesting thing though on one of these podcasts, and they talked about the anterior mid cingulate cortex, and apparently it's like anterior, it's in the front of the brain, and if you are challenging yourself, not that you do something every day, you know, at this time and this time is like regular. If you challenge yourself to do something that you haven't done, then that part of the brain grows. So I tell people all the time, just think, get to that class and your brain will grow.
That's such a great message. And somewhat of a segue, you know, you mentioned that you're very goal oriented. So I'd love, just as a final question, I'd love to know, what is your goal right now? Do you have a big goal right now that you're going after?
I still want to do more on American Ninja Warrior. I still want to get another. I have a Guinness World Record as being the oldest female ninja competitor. So I would like to do something like climb a rope, be the oldest person to climb 80 feet or something. You know, something fun like that. I am starting open water swimming, and somebody has sent me this whole thing with cross rope, which is jumping rope, and I've started doing that. So I'm trying to get through that program. It's exhausting, and I'm trying to work on my endurance. So I do a lot of things with, you know, trying to run on the treadmill and then slow down and then run again. But for big ones, I still at some point I have 3 children's books I want to write.
I'm looking forward to reading those when they come out, and also following along with your cross rope routine. I'm curious about that, so I'm going to check out your Instagram. Speaking of which, where can people find you?
Oh, okay. It's just under my name, my Instagram account, which shows my whole pull-up journey and the journey on Ninja Warrior and such. And that's at my name, Ginny, Ginny, MacColl.
Well, thank you so much, Ginny. We're excited to go check that out. And yeah, you're such an inspiration, so much wisdom. And I think the message you have is just one that every woman should hear at any age. And it's wonderful. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, and it's been lovely to talk to you.
Oh, thank you. It's nice meeting you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Pleasure. Bye-bye, Ginny.
Bye.